Hello and welcome to the SpiderNerd.com podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Weber, aka SpiderNerd, the webmaster of the site. And joining me today for the panel is Mr. Thomas Patterson.
Hello, everybody.
How's it going, Thomas? We missed you last week.
I know. I had a lot of finals.
Yeah, finals are bullshit. They really are.
Yeah, they are. Yep.
Because, here's the thing. I had my finals the week of the 9th, and I'm pretty sure I failed 2 out of 3 of them.
Ugh, that's no good. I already know which one I failed. My stupid calc final. Although she told us the 50% was an A, and I got a 40%, so that would make it a low B.
That'd make it a B minus, I think.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so I ended up actually getting a C in that class, and then everything else was A's and B's, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. APUS was really easy, so...
That's good. I took a intro to psychology final, and I completely BS'd it. Literally, it was 50 multiple choice questions. Half of the questions were common sense, which was good for me because then I was easily able to figure them out. But the other 50% actually required some studying, which I did not have time to do. So I don't
bother studying.
Yeah, I pretty much BS'd that whole final. But the thing is, I've literally gotten an A on everything else in that class, so I'm not worried about it at all.
Yeah.
It's like,
I love the teachers where the finals are worth practically nothing.
Well, I think our final was worth like 30% of our final grade, but even then, it's like 70% I have A's, 30% I have a 50%. You know, really do the math. It's going to come out to be a B to C.
B.
Yeah, it's going to come out somewhere around there, so I'm not worried about it
C
at all.
plus, B minus, B just solid, probably around there.
Yeah. And then I had a government final, which it was 5 essay questions. I looked at the questions. I said, I know that one, BSing that one, BSing that one, know that one, BSing that one.
Oh, man, I really want to take AP US government. I'm really good at that kind of stuff. Very involved in politics.
See, I had the most awesome teacher for government, and I mean he would never stay on track. He'd literally 1 minute he'd be talking about politics and stuff. The next minute he'd be talking about how he doesn't think cheerleading is a sport. Which I will say was the best moment I've ever heard from a teacher, because I'm just going to say this right now. Cheerleading, not a sport. I'm sorry.
It's not.
It's not a sport.
It's what you do for sports.
Exactly. It is not a sport.
Nope.
So, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so I BS that final too, but that's really it.
Yeah.
So, this week, last week I did the podcast solo, which was an interesting experience.
Fun.
Yeah, I apologize to anyone who listened to that podcast and was utterly bored by it. Literally, I learned after I recorded that show that I probably shouldn't have done that because my voice was so tired after 40 minutes straight of speaking. And literally, it was just like, I literally ended the show. I could have gone on for probably about 15 more minutes with that show, but I ended it because I was stupid enough to not bring some water into the show with me. So my throat was so dry. That was probably not a smart decision, so I just ended the show. But this week, we luckily have a co-host. And
woo!
Yes, luckily for me, I have a co-host this week. Because I was not looking forward to doing the show solo again. I mean, I love everyone who comes to the site and listens to the podcast, but I'm honestly not sure if it's worth it.
Yeah.
I was not looking forward to doing a solo show again. I mentioned in the last show that I was thinking about doing those like on a monthly basis. That's not happening. Yeah. Only when I really need to do them, I'm going to do them.
All
right. So before we get into the news topics this week, I do have a little bit of housekeeping that I want to take care of. First of all, I do want to thank Mr. 7 Webheads on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. He's everywhere. I mean, he's huge.
Yep.
He gave us a very, very nice advertisement on his Facebook and Twitter yesterday, and I can't thank him enough. Yesterday, thanks to his advertisements, it was the most successful day for the site in its current history. So with over 200 hits, I have to thank him so much for that. That was amazing. And he didn't charge me for it. He didn't do anything. He said, "You know what? I love your website and I want to advertise it." So he's willing to do it for free, and it's amazing. You know, it's everything I could ask for. He's got so many subscribers, so many followers, so many likes on Facebook. You know, I can't thank him enough for that. That was absolutely amazing. And I didn't even know he told me he was going to do it, but I didn't know when he was going to do it. So I woke up yesterday, literally came on the site, and checked the stats. We had 131 hits, and I was literally like, what the freaking crap? I was like, we've never gotten that much. And then I was getting emails from WordPress, and I was like, they were like, whoa, your site is booming. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just checked Twitter. I saw, because I follow him on Twitter, I saw 7 Webheads tweet. I'm like, that explains a lot. That explains a lot.
Yep.
So, again, I cannot thank him enough for that. That was very generous of him to do, and I want to thank him a lot for that. Also, if anyone is listening to this podcast and thinks, wow, that's something I actually might want to kind of get involved in, we are still looking for more panelists. I mean, I've thought about, you know, where I want to take this podcast and where I want to take this show and everything. And honestly, I think it could do a lot if we have a lot more people on this panel. Well, not a lot more people, but I think 1 or 2 more people on this panel could really benefit us. I mean, we have Mr. Jacob Blowbaum, who unfortunately had to work today, so he couldn't be with us. You know, we're lucky when we do get him, so we do get kind of a quote-unquote panel, but really it usually just is me and Thomas, and we are looking to kind of expand the show a bit. So if you're interested in joining the panel, you know, you read the Spider-Man comics, you're able to be with us at least 3 out of the 4, normally 4 weeks in a month. That'll be okay for me. So, really, if you're interested in joining the panel, you read the comics, you love Spider-Man, and you're able to be with us on a fairly consistent basis, send me an email at johndougweber@gmail.com, all lowercase. Send me an email, and we'll see about what we can do getting you on the show. I've put advertisements out. I put calls out. It's the CBR forums to pretty much any message board I can find. Well, that will let me do it at least without, you know, marking it as spam. And I've put the calls out there for more panelists, so I hope people respond. And hopefully we will get some people on the panel. I'm sorry, my throat's a little bit dry. Luckily, I do have a glass of milk here, so I am able to quench my thirst a little bit. As I just did. All right. And Thomas is sick. Yes. But with that, we will move off of the housekeeping and into the news topics. There hasn't been very much news this week, but there has been some. There really hasn't been any big stories, but you know, there's been some stuff worth talking about. So I just want to get everyone's personal opinions on it. First off, our first news story is that Steve Wacker is reportedly going to be leaving the comics industry and joining Marvel Animation. It hasn't been officially announced outside of Marvel yet, but according to Bleeding Cool, they've announced it internally that Wacker will be leaving the comics industry in exchange for animation. There's no announcement yet as to when this will be taking place or why he's doing it, but it's just out there that he is going to be doing it. So, Thomas, you know, you read Superior Spider-Man, as do I. I don't know what other titles you read, if any. But what do you think of Steve Wacker reportedly leaving the title after being on there basically since, well, as far as I know, he was on there from the beginning of Brand New Day?
Yeah, I think a lot of people actually really like Steve Wacker's work on basically all the titles he's on. I haven't read Wade's Daredevil yet, but most of his titles I hear are at a consistent level of quality of being generally very good. So I feel like this is going to be a huge, like, when it is officially announced, a lot of people don't really take Bleeding Cool's word for it, but when it is officially announced, I feel that a lot of people are going to be upset about it because he's done consistently good work on these titles, and I feel that he's done a pretty good job too. So obviously, but then they have the Marvel animation, which I'm not too thrilled about at the current moment. So if he can bring any of his current level of quality, like even half of the level of quality that he has from the comics to the animation, I can actually start to, at least tolerate the animation again. So hopefully he'll be able to rejuvenate it, but with Jeff Loeb at the helm, I don't know if that's possible.
I have to agree with you there. I mean, Steve Wacker, I heard someone point this out on Facebook. I don't remember who it was. I'm so sorry. I want to give credit to the person so bad, but I don't remember who it was. I'm so sorry. But I heard it on Facebook. I read it in a comment, and they said that Steve Wacker, if nothing else, he gets the books out on a consistent basis. I don't think he very rarely runs late with the books, which is a problem that plagued a lot of the Civil War era of the book before Brand New Day and One More Day. So I think, if anything, we're probably going to see a bit of a change in that. But I've heard a lot of people complain about Steve Wacker because, he is the senior editor. He's the editor-in-chief or whatever they call him. And a lot of people aren't happy with the current direction that Marvel is taking. So when people ultimately have, when you have someone who's part of that's leaving, you're going to have mixed opinions on it. So some people are happy about it. Some people aren't happy about it. Personally, I'm kind of a mixed bag on it. I do respect Wacker for all he's done because, he's been on the Spider-Man comics. Again, don't hold me to this, but I think he's been on them since Brand New Day. And he's done, that's a pretty impressive run. If Marvel is confident enough in him to keep him on the books for 5 straight years, I think that's fairly good and that's fairly impressive. So when I hear this announcement that he could be leaving, I am kind of disappointed. But again, I do respect him for his long run as editor. On the flip side of that, I do feel like Spider-Man, ever since One More Day and Brand New Day, has dipped to its lowest quality in years. So, and Wacker has been a part of that. And as such, it kind of makes me think, well, what will another editor come in? What will that bring to the books? What will that bring to the character? And so it's kind of a mixed bag for me. Seeing him go to Marvel Animation, really anything that other than what we're getting right now in Marvel Animation is welcome to me, because I have to agree with Thomas on this. I'm not a fan of the current Marvel direction of animation because, what shows are out right now?
We have Ultimate Spider-Man, we have Hulk and the Agents of Smash, and we also have Avengers Alliance or something like that.
Avengers Assemble.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Avengers Assemble.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Personally, I'm not a big fan of really any of those shows. I've seen the...
Nuh-uh.
Granted, I haven't seen Hulk and the Agents of Smash yet.
It's basically the same thing. If you wanted to watch if you hated Ultimate Spider-Man and you don't really like Avengers Assemble, which Avengers Assemble is still a step up from Ultimate Spider-Man, but if you didn't like Ultimate Spider-Man, it's basically the same thing. Hulk and the Agents of Smash is like in between Avengers Assemble and Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man's still the lowest out of all the animation products that they're putting out right now.
Which is ironic because Ultimate Spider-Man is the one that came out first.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've seen Avengers Assemble. I've only seen 2 episodes of it actually. Well, 3 if you count the episodes that I watched while I was writing my reviews for Ultimate Spider-Man, because literally they would air Ultimate Spider-Man and then they would air Avengers Assemble. And I dropped Ultimate Spider-Man towards the end of the 2nd season because I couldn't take it anymore.
Mm-mm.
I'm
surprised you lasted that long. Most people don't.
Well, see, I actually only started with season 2.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see most of season 1, so that's why, for anyone who's wondering
Season 1's worse. Season 1's worse.
That's what I've heard. I've gone back and watched back episodes of it, and it's not good at all. So for anyone who wonders why I never reviewed season 1 and I only started reviewing with season 2, that's why, because I only started watching the show with season 2. I watched the first episode when it came out, almost 2 years ago. I watched that episode. and I wasn't a big fan. So I just dropped the series, and then season 2 came on, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to give this a second chance. And so, yeah, that's really my way of thinking. I've seen Avengers Assemble, and really, it is a step up, but it's still not nearly as good as Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That show
Spectacular Spider-Man.
Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Those two shows kicked so many levels of ass.
Yeah, they belonged on the air.
They really did. And, it was just a shame. I mean, I remember I punched a wall when I heard that Spectacular was canceled back in 2010.
See, back in 2010 when I heard Spectacular was canceled, I was like, alright, well, I'll see what Marvel has to do with it. I hope it's good. And then I saw some of the footage where they had Spider-Man transforming into a toaster, and I was like, oh god, no. Please. No!
Yeah, I didn't... See, here's the thing. I saw no footage of Ultimate Spider-Man before it came out. I think... Well, no, that's a lie. I think I saw one trailer. That's it. And I have to say that, I mean, it didn't have all that stupid stuff in it, so I had no idea where that was coming from when I saw the first episode of the show. The first trailer that I saw actually made it look like a somewhat decent show, so when I saw the first episode, I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. Like,
I could go into an entire episode about why Ultimate Spider-Man sucks all kinds of ass, but we're trying
to avoid that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think anything is better than what Marvel Animation is doing right now.
Exactly.
Ultimate Spider-Man sucks. Avengers Assemble, it's okay. It's not nearly as good as Earth's Mightiest Heroes, but I actually find it kind of tolerable.
It's decent. It's decent.
I do find it kind of tolerable. And Hulk and the Agents of Smash, haven't seen, but I'll take your word for it.
It's bad, but it's not. Like, I mean, it's tolerable bad. You could sit there and be like, okay, this is interesting, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
whereas Ultimate Spider-Man's completely intolerable. I can't tolerate it at all.
Yeah, I can't stand it anymore. I watched most of season 2, and after this stupid video game episode or whatever with Captain America, or I don't even remember who was in it. It was like Wolverine and someone else teamed up with Spider-Man, and it was just stupid, and I was just like, I didn't see it.
I quit halfway through season 2, so the last one I saw was the Deadpool one.
Oh gosh.
Hey, that was actually the best one out of the entire thing.
I'm not going to comment. Not going to comment because I'm going to start an argument, and I don't want to do that. I'm not going to comment.
It was the best one. That still doesn't say that it's, not crap, but it was the best one.
I personally liked the Carnage episode, but that was me.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it was actually a decent episode, but whatever. We're not talking about Ultimate Spider-Man anymore.
Okay, all right. Next news topic.
Yeah, next news topic. We have CBR this week put out a top 10 list of their top 10 Spider-Man writers. And let me just read down the list from 10 to 1. And then we'll give our thoughts on it. We're not going to give our own top 10 lists because that would just take way too much time, and I didn't feel like putting a top 10 list together. That's literally the reason I did not feel like doing it. But so let me read down the top 10 list. At number 10, Kurt Busiek. How the hell do you pronounce that name? I have no idea.
I think you pronounced it all right.
Yeah, Kurt Busiek. Number 9, Paul Jenkins. Number 8, Tom DeFalco. Number 7, and this one hurt. This one really hurt. David Michelinie. Damn. 6, Brian Michael Bendis. 5, Dan Slott. Number 4, James D. Mateus. Number 3, Gary Conway, or Jerry Conway, however you pronounce it. Gary Conway. I pronounce it Gary Conway. Number 2, Roger Stern. And number 1, Stan Lee, along with Steve Ditko. So, Thomas, we're going to start with you. What are your thoughts on this top 10 list?
I think with number 1, I really do like Stan Lee's era and everything. I have so much respect for the guy. I think it's great, but I feel like everyone just puts him number one out of, just out of courtesy of him coming up with the character, because they're the creators. I mean, I think that they did have one of the best runs, but I feel like people just put them there out of courtesy and don't really, consider the quality of it too much. Obviously, it's really good quality, but I don't know. I don't know if they'd belong as number one because I feel like there were a few that did a little better. I read a little bit of Roger Stern. I think he did a really good job with Spider-Man. But my favorite would probably be Brian Michael Bendis with Ultimate Comics. But his past when he killed Peter, after he killed Peter, I don't know if I could put him as number one anymore. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with him. And then Dan Slott, I don't know if he belongs. I guess he would be number 5 probably. That makes sense to me. A lot of his Spider-Man stuff's been all right. I personally haven't been a fan too much of Superior Spider-Man. I don't really like the premise too much, but it's all right, I guess. Everybody else, I think, belongs in the same spot that they do. I really enjoy most Spider-Man comics as a whole. And Stan Lee, I say that he probably belongs as number 1 or 2 based on mine, but I just feel a lot of people just put him there out of courtesy. And then in terms of Jerry Conway, I'm just jumping around a whole bunch here. I'm sorry. The Gwen Stacy story, I think that's what he gets the most recognition from that. Yeah. And we all know that if you're going to bring in Gwen Stacy, that you're probably going to end up having to kill her because of that iconic, moment on the bridge and stuff. So
unless you're Mark Webb.
Unless you're Mark Webb.
Mark Webb does not have to do it. Don't you dare. And I'm saying,
okay.
And I'm saying that just because if anyone hasn't picked up on it, I really don't want Emma Stone to die. I would
double
marry
cast her
her
as Mary Jane.
I would marry
Notice
her.
Redhead, just double cast her.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would buy that.
Maybe not.
I don't think anyone
They're
would
a
buy
striking resemblance to my last girlfriend.
Peter would be like, "What the freak?" He's like, "Yeah, baby, I'd love to date you, but you give me bad memories." Like literally,
But that would make it a little bit easier. It's like, okay, at least there's like a clone of her, a doppelganger going around.
watch her like be a complete bitch.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, you're a complete clone, looks wise, but personality wise, I want to stab you with a knife.
Exactly. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on this. Most of them deserve their spot. I really like Brian Michael Bendis' first 160 runs of Ultimate Spider-Man, and 160 issues. But past that point, meh.
I'll admit, when I saw this top 10 list, I was a little bit taken aback by it. Because there are some placements on here that I really disagree with.
Hit me with it.
All right. First of all, the one I do agree with is Stan Lee. I personally agree that he belongs at number 1 because personally for me, when I think of Spider-Man, I do think of Stan Lee's run. My first Spider-Man comic was actually a reprint of Amazing Spider-Man number 2, which was the introduction of Vulture and the Tinkerer, which, I love that issue to death. That was my first Spider-Man comic, and I love that issue still today. And I read that back when I was like 8 or 9, so, I love that issue. And to me, I think Stan Lee just created this charm and wit to Spider-Man that I don't think anyone else was really able to capture. There was something about his comics that made me want to read them. And on top of that, Personally, I felt that even though Stan had a lot of pointless stories, like Beware the Black Widow issue number 86 immediately coming to mind, or, the Meteor issue number 36, or the Beetle issue number 21, those might not have a huge impact, but they were still good stories. I felt that even when he's writing pointless stories, they're still good. And I've said that, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again here on the podcast. I've said that Spider-Man has never been as consistently good as it was when it was written by Stan Lee. And I know that's a big statement to make, considering all the Spider writers out there, but that's what I personally believe. Now, I haven't read every single run. I'm currently in my back issues of reading Spider-Man. I'm currently in the middle of the 90s Clone Saga. So I haven't read most of the 2000s, but from what I've heard, it's not anything special. So, personally, I don't want to judge it, before having read it, but personally, I don't think it's anything really big. So, I do agree with Stan Lee. I do think that Roger Stern is a bit too high. I do love Roger Stern's work in the 80s. He was my favorite 80s Spider writer, but I do think he's a little bit too high. The one placement that really got me was David Michelinie at number 7. Now, Thomas, have you read any of Michelinie's work?
A little bit. I got the Venom trade.
Yes.
So I have all the Venom issues. Not all the Venom issues. The introduction of Venom and then the second appearance of Venom. And it was actually the most creative villain work since Stan Lee that I've seen. And so, yeah, I don't really see a problem with his placement just based on those issues. I haven't read too much of them though, to be quite honest.
See, I've read Michelinie's full run on Amazing Spider-Man, and I have to tell you, David Michelinie, he came in the late 80s. For me, I felt that the early and mid 80s were a very dark time for Spider-Man because, personally, the Denny O'Neil run, the Marv Wolfman run, all those runs, those two runs really brought the quality of the stories down a bit. I've read those old issues, and those are not the best. Roger Stern kind of came in and elevated it a bit. Tom DeFalco came in after Roger Stern, brought it back down a little bit, not as bad as it was during Wolfman or Denny O'Neil, but David Michelinie came in and just rejuvenated Spider-Man. He brought it back to the quality that it was at the end of the Gary Conway run. And that, I think, puts him, higher in this list than number 7. I have to say, he was first paired up with Todd McFarlane, and I'm not a big fan of Todd McFarlane's art, but I loved and adored the stories. Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 21 is one of my favorite Spider-Man stories of all time. And for anyone who doesn't know, that's the issue where Peter and MJ get married. But I personally feel that Michelinie should be, if not second, then definitely third. Michelinie is just an amazing writer. He brought in so many good stories. He gave us Venom. He gave us Carnage. He gave us, how many other things did he give us? I think he gave us Cardiac. He gave us, all these great characters. He gave us all these great storylines. I personally really enjoyed the little subplot of Jonathan Caesar stalking Mary Jane during his run. That went from 304 to 339, I think. And that was very, very enjoyable. And so, really, I think Michelinie should be way higher up on this list than that. If I had to give my top 5 Spider-Man writers, here's how it would go. I personally would start at number 5 with Roger Stern. Ranking above him would be James D. Matteis, who was placed perfectly on this list. They ranked him as number 4, and ultimately, I think that is the best place for him. He's amazing. I love James D. Matteis. Number 4 is James D. Matteis. Number 3, I agree with them again, Gary Conway. I love his amazing run. I haven't read anything he did on Web or Spectacular, but I do love his amazing run. He gave us the death of Gwen Stacy. He gave us the original Clone Saga. He gave us that really wacky storyline of Doc Ock and Aunt May trying to get married. He gave us all those storylines, which I really enjoyed. And then, number 2, I would put David Michelinie for his amazing work on Amazing Spider-Man. And then, of course, number 1, I would put Stan Lee. In terms of the other list, or in terms of the other members of the list, I personally don't think Tom DeFalco should be on here. I felt his amazing run was okay. It wasn't anything, I didn't feel it was anything special.
Yeah. I read in the Venom trade I got, they had a few of those issues with him in the black suit. At least all the issues with Spider-Man wearing the black suit. And that was his work. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad. I mean, I enjoyed it above average. But so, I haven't read very many runs and back issues of the Amazing Spider-Man. I've mostly done Ultimate Comics Spider-Man and the first 20 years of Spider-Man and the last 20 years. So I kind of skipped over DeFalco for the most part. But I think I don't see a problem with him being on this list.
I've read his entire Amazing run, and I'll be quite honest, I didn't find it to be anything special, so I personally don't think he should be on the list. Brian Michael Bendis, he definitely deserves to be on this list. I actually just picked up on eBay the other day. I picked up the first 40 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man for $25, I think it was. So
wow,
I got a steal. Yeah, I found that little omnibus on eBay, and I got a steal for it. So I was like, yeah, buying it. I really do enjoy Ultimate Spider-Man. I think it's a nice modern take on Spider-Man. As much as I do love Ultimate Spider-Man, I do think that the Amazing Spider-Man movie franchise is a better modern take on Spider-Man, but we'll get to that's not a discussion we need to have right now.
Yeah.
Personally, I really liked Ultimate Spider-Man. I would definitely put Brian Michael Bendis where he is. Dan Slott.
No.
I'm sorry. It's like
I wouldn't put him in the top 5. No way. He does not belong in front of Brian Michael Bendis. I'm sorry.
I respect Dan Slott for all he's done. I mean, he wrote the first Spider-Man story post One More Day. He's had a very long, over 50 issue run on Amazing, or exactly 50 issues. I think it might have been exactly 50 issues.
You said 70 was his total run, actually.
On Amazing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking just his solo run, not his Brand New Day stuff.
Yeah. Oh, no. Okay, yeah.
I'm talking.
But he did a 10th of all the work on the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, oh gosh, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, he came in as like one of the 10 writers during Brand New Day, and when they were just alternating. But I'm really only talking about his solo run, which started with issue 648, I believe, which was the beginning of Big Time. Mm-hmm. He had a good run on Amazing, and he's had a good run on Superior. I do respect the guy. I think he needs to really learn how to grow up, because I'm just going to say this. He started 2 threads on CBR this past week, and it just made me roll my eyes.
Yeah, he as a person who goes on CBR a lot, there's a lot of stuff that he does. And Steve Walker too, actually. They will actually talk down to fans, derogatize them, and call them like stupid for basically not seeing their genius and all this other stuff. A lot of the stuff that they do on there is a little, I think, below people who are supposed to be, professional. They don't act professional. They act like the other CBR boards members, which is fine for people that sitting in their basement with their pants unbuttoned, commenting on the latest issue of Superior Spider-Man that I read. That was so lame. But Dan Slott and Steve Walker need to act a little bit more professional than they do, and they don't. So
I've gone through some of the threads that he's made, and personally, I think Whacker is a little bit more mature than Slott because.
Well, yeah, but that's not really saying much. Dan Slott sets the bar pretty low.
Yeah. I mean, we're not trying to insult Dan Slott or Steve Whacker on this show. I mean, we have great respect for them for what they've done, but some of them need to grow up.
Oh, absolutely. I like a lot of what Dan Slott does. I just don't feel like his quality is, just talking about his writing, I don't think his quality is as good as all these other writers that they have on here that did so well. And the Ultimate Spider-Man, the first 50 or so issues are the best Spider-Man run I've read ever about young Peter. I just have so much respect for Brian Michael Bendis' first 50 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, and nothing I've read by Dan Slott even comes close to that.
Personally, if I put Dan Slott on this list at all, which I've been having this debate with myself all week, and the thing is, I haven't read anything by Kurt Busiek or Paul Jenkins. Shoot me if you will, but I haven't read anything by them.
Nope, me neither. So
I honestly hadn't even heard of Kurt Busiek.
I've heard of him. There's nothing.
Oh, you know what? I'm actually looking at his credentials right now. I have read 2 issues by him. I've read 2 issues of his Unlimited run.
Oh.
So I actually have read something by Busiek, but I didn't even know who he was. But I can tell you for sure I haven't read anything by Paul Jenkins, because I'm looking at his credentials right now, and literally I don't recognize any of those titles.
Yeah, me neither.
So, I don't really know much about those 2. So I don't know if I would put Slott on my top 10 list.
No, I don't know either. Mostly because I don't know who these other guys are. And I don't I'm having a hard time finding another person that I would put above Dan Slott, mostly because most of the Spider-Man I've read has been by pretty long runs by one writer. So I'm having trouble finding another writer that I could put somewhere, but I'm not really sure if Dan Slott, based on the extensive knowledge that they clearly have, like look at all these spin-off titles that they have, I don't know if I'd put him in the top 10.
Yeah, we mean no disrespect, but really we don't. I don't think
his Superior Spider-Man stuff is up to snuff of any Amazing Spider-Man stuff I've read. Any Spider-Man that I've read, the Superior Spider-Man falls beneath just because I absolutely despise the premise. Absolutely despise it.
I don't despise the premise. I just feel that, Superior is hot and cold with me, but I don't know. I don't think I would put Slott. If he's anywhere on the list, he's number 10.
Yeah, probably.
If he's anywhere on the list. And
yeah.
I've literally been thinking about this all week, and I can't decide. I really can't.
I would say that he'd probably be either 9 or 10 if I could, make a better decision based on Paul Jenkins and Kurt Busiek. But if they're as good as the list says, then Dan Slott would probably go after them.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right.
In my personal, humble opinion, where I hate the premise of the Superior Spider-Man and how stupid all the characters have been built up to be, yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about that when we review Superior. But, yeah, so I think we've spent enough time on this topic. So, on to our final news topic of the week. And this is something I've heard a lot of people talking about. I normally don't like to talk about rumors, but this is something that's been going all over the Spider-Man fandom.
Yep.
This is everywhere. Like, it's on every single message board I've seen and have been on has this somewhere on it. So I think we need to talk about it. Really bleeding cool. And again, this is bleeding cool, so take it with a grain of salt. And they even said take this with a grain of salt. But right now we got these solicitations for Superior Spider-Man number 29 and number 30, which are parts 3 and 4 of Goblin Nation. And the big rumor is that number 30 is not part 4 or 5 of a 5-part series called Goblin Nation. Instead, the rumor is that number 30 is the final issue of Superior Spider-Man, and an all-new Marvel Now Spider-Man title will be starting in April. Yeah. So, Thomas, we'll start with you. Do you even believe this a bit?
I actually do believe this a bit, and I actually have a reason why that I worked out in my head. Everything that Dan Slott's been doing with this Goblin stuff has been building up the entire series from the very first issue. It's been building up, and everything has been moving towards this sort of culmination in this idea that he's going to go up against the Goblin. And I feel like this would be the perfect time to end the series, to really go through it and finally culminate the series. Not only that, but the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie's coming out the next month. You got to give these incoming readers chances to pick up on the all-new Marvel Now Amazing Spider-Man with Peter Parker, with the one they just went to go see in the movie theater. And it also would reset, and I know a lot of people don't like this, but it would reset the status quo for Peter Parker, because Otto has done such a number on his life with everything that he's done. He probably is going to have him kicked off the Avengers team by the end. He's not going to have any good relations with the press or the public or anything. J. Jonah Jameson is going to be back to, saying how bad Spider-Man is. The only people that actually know are the people who are close to him, and so they'll still be like his friend and stuff. But I think there'll also be a certain apprehensiveness about it. And so I think that resetting Peter is the perfectly good thing to do when there are going to be a whole bunch of new people coming in to read it. And I also think it's a smart move on Marvel's part to try to hide it for as long as possible, so that more people can focus on, it's just the Superior Spider-Man's going on as long as possible. However, there is one stipulation that I note is that people are going to find out you were lying in the next month's solicitations. I don't know how solicitations work, if they can keep up Superior Spider-Man and then, it's a fake out, we actually meant the all-new Amazing Spider-Man for Marvel Now. And I'm like, okay. But I guess we'll see what happens, but the timing makes sense. Everything else makes sense about it. It's just, I don't understand what's going to come out in a month that would make the solicitations say, it's the all new Marvel Now Amazing Spider-Man with Peter Parker back. That'll make the announcement any different from saying it this month.
Here's my thing about this. When I read the solicitation for number 30, they specifically said that they were that they were continuing a plot that has been building since the beginning of Dying Wish. Never once did it occur to me that they were going to end Superior with that. Now, here's how I took it. I took it as they're going to take the Superior Spider-Man and they're going to drastically change it. They're going to bring Ghost Peter back, or, they're going to do something Peter Parker related. But I didn't necessarily think that Superior was going to end. Now, I've been saying this really ever since this started, that yes, this needs to be over by the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie. Because I cannot tell you how bad of an idea it is to have this going on when you have a big budget movie that's going to pull in a lot of new readers. When you have that coming out, and then they come in and read the comics, and they're going to be confused as hell. So it's
there's no Peter Parker out in the comics right now. We have Miles Morales and we have Doc Ock.
And we have Kane, Scarlet Spider ended this month, but so basically, that just would not work, and that would not be a good idea. And to anyone who says, the second movie's not going to pull in as many new readers as the first movie, I call bullshit on that, because I actually came into Spider-Man originally when I was a kid with the second Raimi movie, not the first. So anyone who says that the second movie can't bring in new readers, I'm just going to call bullshit on that. That's just ridiculous.
That's exactly what happened with me. The first Spider-Man actually didn't make me go out and read new comics. It made me go out and get the animated series on VCR. Yes, I still had a VCR at that point, and I watched it on VCR. And then after the second one, I went to start reading actually Ultimate Spider-Man at the time, and that's where I came into comics.
Well, Spider-Man 2 just introduced me to Spider-Man in general. Like, I knew there was a Spider-Man movie out, but I didn't bother to see it because I was like, when I was a kid, I was like obsessed with Danny Phantom.
Oh.
That show was the shit, by the way. But I was like obsessed with that show for like 3 years, and then I've told this story many times, and I'll tell it here again. A friend who lived down the street from me brought over the Spider-Man 2 video game, and he was playing the Mysterio level, and I was instantly intrigued. I saw the movie, loved it. Saw Spider-Man 1, loved it. Watched the animated series, loved it. I didn't actually start reading comics until last year, but I read a couple comics when I was 9 or 10. Like I said, there were old Lee Ditko issues that were reprinted that I managed to pick up. But I didn't really start reading real comics until last year after the Amazing Spider-Man movie came out. So that's really what got me into it. And then just where the hell am I going with this? Oh yeah. So I really don't think that having Superior with
a new movie.
Yeah, with the new movie coming out is a good idea.
I don't either.
But
I don't either.
But then there's the part about this announcement that really gets me. They said, we're going to start this new Spider-Man title in April. Or, I called it an announcement. This is a rumor, all right? This isn't official. We want to be clear. This is a rumor. It's not necessarily going to happen. But, this is everywhere on the internet, so I figured we should talk about it here. The part of this rumor that's really getting me and is really making me not want this to be true, the creative team. Dan Slott.
No. Oh, yeah, I'm just noticing it now.
Dan Slott, which I don't mind. I don't really have a problem with that. And Humberto Ramos.
No, not Humberto
No.
Ramos.
No Ramos.
No. This is like a Darth Vader moment right now.
Like,
no.
They haven't announced any other artists. They said they'll get a brand new comic by Dan Slott and Humberto Ramos.
I don't really know about Dan Slott because he's been having such a hard time keeping up with the 2-month schedule for Superior Spider-Man. And on top of that, he's also starting Silver Surfer. So I was thinking that by the time that Spider-Man also relaunched, he'd be gone because of that, which I think was a honest, kind of like, oh, that's going to happen. And I'm really not liking the Humberto Ramos rumor. Not liking it at all. At all.
If they were to literally just, I have no problem with Dan Slott writing it. I mean, as much as his work has been mediocre, I mean, I feel like maybe he has potential, to bring a really good story out of him at some point. Because I think everyone has a good story inside them. They just have to find it. I think Dan Slott, we're waiting to see that. I mean, a lot of people call Superior his good story. I call bullshit on that. Nope. But, I personally think that maybe Slott could be a little bit redeemed if he does continue on to this all-new Spider-Man title. But, I mean, Ramos, really? Like,
I'm not feeling that at all.
I've heard mixed reactions to Ramos's art, and I've got to say, I'm not a fan of it at all. I mean,
me neither.
He's my least favorite artist on Superior right now. My favorite, if they were to bring in Giuseppe Camicoli for this book, I would buy it just for the artwork. I wouldn't care who wrote it.
Yeah, I think that he's the best artist right now on the Superior Spider-Man, and that he should be the one to take over the next book. Also, Dan Slott did say that he was going to bring in Electro around the same time as the movie, so I suppose that would make a fairly good first arc for this new series, especially if it's coming around the same time as the movie. So that actually makes some good sense to relaunch it. I'm just really hoping Humberto Ramos isn't the one drawing it, and I really hope that that part's just a rumor at the very least.
Again,
at the very least,
we'll
that ends up
again.
being true.
This is a rumor. this isn't official. It's a rumor, but, we're taking...
I'm perfectly okay with everything else being true except for the Humberto Ramos part. That part can go away.
Really, I'm okay with it too. It's just we want to stress that this is a rumor. Now, what? Now, watch the next week or something. The solicitations will come out for April, and then we'll be saying, "Oh yeah, remember that news story we talked about a couple weeks ago? Yeah, that's true." Moving on.
And Humberto Ramos is drawing it, and I will have a huge nerd rage right here on the show.
I have no problem with that. I think that actually be quite funny. But all right, so yeah, that's really all we have to say. That's really all the news topics for today. So this is going to conclude our first show for this week. So we will be back. Well, Thomas and I are going to record the next show right after this. Like, I'm literally just going to pause and restart the recording. But we will probably see you guys in a couple of days. I'll release the next show. Probably on Thursday. Look out for it. Look out for our reviews of Superior 22 to 24. And so, yeah, with that being said, we will see you on Thursday, I guess. Hopefully Thursday. I'm hoping everything goes okay. So, see you then.
Bye.